I am delighted to welcome our guest today, Mike Cernovich. He's a filmmaker, journalist, commentator on a wide range of topics. He produced the documentary called Hoaxed: Everything They Told You Is a Lie. Mike's one of my favorite Twitter followers, so make sure to find him on Twitter. You can also subscribe to his Substack. Mike, thanks for joining us.
Always a pleasure. Thank you.
Yeah. So, Mike, I wanted to get your reaction to some of the recent kind of rumblings going on with Trump's arrest, and also just how do you feel like a lot of the presidential hopefuls and other people responded to the news?
Yeah, the Trump arrest was mishandled by everyone, especially I think DeSantis, which was unfortunate because I expected him to have better political instincts. The big mistake people are making right now is they're seeing it as Trump's arrest, whereas most of the country doesn't see it as Trump's arrest. They see it as a way to attack all of Trump's supporters, as a way to apply an unequal system of law. For example, I bring up your dad's case a lot. A lot of people don't even know about your dad's case because he handled it with such grace and moved on with his life, but it still actually probably makes me angrier than it makes him, which is, wait a minute, you went after Dinesh for helping a friend's campaign, and then Rosie O'Donnell says that she deliberately sent illegal campaign contributions and brags about it, and then nobody goes after Rosie O'Donnell. So is Dinesh, did he commit a crime for giving a friend $10,000 accidentally, because nobody understood this stuff at the time? Nobody knew you couldn't do that. It's silly. Nobody had any idea even. And then to have the full resources of the law brought on him, and then of course the FBI file says he was an anti-Obama filmmaker. And you think, oh, okay, well, that was obvious what would happen there. And then meanwhile, you have Rosie O'Donnell saying, oh, yeah, I deliberately sent too much money, hoping that they don't send it back. Okay, so she's an admitted campaign contribution fraud, admitted. And of course, nothing happens to her. We're seeing the same thing play out where in the Ricky Vaughn case, a guy makes a boomer joke about voting by text. He's indicted, but then there's a left-wing person telling Trump supporters election disinformation about where to vote, and her post goes viral, and there's no indictment or arrest. So this isn't about Trump making a paperwork error or an entry that was incorrect in 2018 or 2016 or whenever he paid the amount of money. We all know that, and you would think that DeSantis would know that, even though, because DeSantis people keep telling me Trump's making unfair tax on DeSantis. Yeah, great. You follow me. You know that I'm very, very, very hotly against all that. So they're in this weird debate where they're arguing things that I didn't say, where I'm saying, yeah, I'm telling you that Trump has made some really below the belt attacks on DeSantis. You don't defend Trump because you're bootlicking. It's the opposite. You stand up for the principles at play here, and you start to remind people that the law is being used unjustly to prosecute conservatives. So that's the issue here. And unfortunately, a lot of people don't understand that.
Right. And it seems like, there's, of course, going to be personal attacks or kind of personal elements there if you're running against someone, which DeSantis hasn't said he is, but we all think he might. And so there's going to be that personal bad blood, I guess. But if you're just a regular American or a Trump voter, or maybe you're a big DeSantis fan, either way, maybe both, then you might be thinking, I like both these people, or I just want there to be a fair justice system. I don't want there to be this political, persecution of only conservatives or Soros, DAs and so on. And so it seems like the right thing to do would have been to rise above the personal, but to make it more about that issue, which is obviously such a key problem for so many people, even besides Trump, like you mentioned. And I saw Vivek Ramaswamy did kind of a good response on that. Did you feel like his response was pretty positive?
Yeah, he understands the issue on a very conceptual, intellectual level, which is what you would expect of DeSantis too. But maybe you get the Trump hating you and you think the last thing I want to do is defend Trump, but you realize you're not defending Trump, you're defending the principle. You don't even have to mention Trump. You can just do what I did and mention all these other cases that have happened and say this is what they're doing to Trump because he's the biggest great white whale. He's what they want. And that means if they can get him, they can get anyone. So something has to be done. And then, of course, DeSantis people go, well, if he brought that up in court, then, well, this is showing me that they don't really understand the moment. Sure, we know all this. We know Trump is going to surrender himself anyway, so it's an easy win. It's sort of like when I tell people when they're planning a wedding or something like that, invite people that you know or expect aren't going to show up, because they're glad that you invited them, so you've extended good grace to them, and they're not going to show up anyway. It's just an easy win, so you're not even expanding your head count. So everyone who's done any kind of social planning knows, oh yeah, these people probably aren't even going to show up. Even better, I'll make sure I'll invite those people, because then it's a nice sentimental moment for them and it feels good, and it doesn't cost us anything because they're actually not going to show up.
Yeah, for sure. And it seems like DeSantis does have some of that political acumen when it comes to other things. He, if someone or business in Florida goes against his rules, he definitely fights back against them. So it's kind of out of character for him to not have a stronger stance in the situation. So maybe it is because of the personal stuff. But when it comes to this kind of DeSantis moment, I know you wrote that DeSantis may have missed the moment here. What moment do you feel like this could have been for DeSantis had he chosen a different path and chosen to have a stronger stance to Soros? Right.
Excuse me. If I'm DeSantis and I'm writing his speech or giving him the speech, if you read the whole speech, everything's good until the last paragraph, where he says, I'm not going to get involved. This is a sideshow. This is a circus. I have more important issues. You cut that off, because if you know anything about media editing or you've done films, you know that everything you say can be clipped. So whenever you're talking, you think, oh, could this be clipped? It's even gotten to the point now where I used to spell out words because people were making fake audio of me. So I wouldn't even say certain words without spelling them out, or I'd cover my mouth. That way there was no video. Now with deep fakes, they can make up anything. But that has to be your mindset, is you think, if I'm giving this speech, what's going to get clipped? Well, the last paragraph is what's clipped. And then, of course, DeSantis's people are upset because they go, look at what else he said, which was really great. Sure. But have you done video editing? Go work on films and then find out how stuff is going to get clipped. So you don't want to be seen as a person calling unlawful prosecutions a sideshow, that it doesn't matter, because it does matter. So all he had to do was say the first part. And then what would happen is the media would say, so you're because they're such liars. Oh, so you're saying you're not going to extradite, and they're going to make it this whole huge brouhaha. And now you're DeSantis, you're now in the arena, but you're not against Trump, you're against the Soros DA. And then it's you versus the Soros DA. And then you go, what are you talking about? I haven't said anything about any of that extradition. And now you're involved in the most significant national story. You haven't said that you're going to maybe necessarily go to the mattresses for Trump, but you positioned yourself against the Soros DAs. And by the way, you know who would really have hated it if DeSantis had done that? Trump. Trump would have been so mad, because then DeSantis would have elevated himself to the top of the food chain in that whole conversation. And that was the missed moment.
Right.